Namo fundamental teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo fundamental teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo fundamental teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. The unsurpassed, profound, and wonderful Dharma is difficult to encounter in hundreds of millions of eons. I now see and hear it, receive and uphold it, and I vow to fathom the Tathagata's true meaning. Part 1 of Sutra of the Past Vows of Asto Bodhisattva. Chapter 1, Spiritual Penetrations in the Palace of the Trayastrimsha Heaven. Thus I have heard, at one time the Buddha was in the Trayastrimsha Heaven speaking Dhamma for his mother. At that time ineffable Buddhas and great Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas, from infinite worlds in the 10 directions, assembled to praise Shakyamuni Buddha's ability to manifest inconceivable great wisdom and powerful spiritual penetrations in the evil world of the 5 turbid deeds. They lauded his ability to regulate and subdue obstinate living beings, so that these beings would come to know the Dhamma of suffering and bliss. Each one sent his attendants to pay their respects to the world honor one. At that time the thus common smiled and emitted billions of great light clouds, such as the light cloud of great perfection, the light cloud of great compassion, the light cloud of great wisdom, the light cloud of great prajna, the light cloud of great samadhi, the light cloud of great auspiciousness, the light cloud of great blessings, the light cloud of great merit, the light cloud of great refuge, and the light cloud of great praise. After emitting all these indescribable light clouds, he also emitted many wonderful subtle sounds, such as the Dhamma Paramita sound, the Shila Paramita sound, Kshanti Paramita sound, Virya Paramita sound, Dhyana Paramita sound, and Prajna Paramita sound. There was the sound of compassion, the sound of joyous giving, the sound of liberation, the sound of no outflows, the sound of wisdom, the sound of great wisdom, the sound of the lion's roar, the sound of the great lion's roar, the sound of thunder clouds, and the sound of great thunder clouds. After such indescribable sounds had been emitted, countless millions of gods, dragons, ghosts, and spirits from the Saha and other worlds also gathered in the palace of the Trayastrimsha Heaven. They came from the heaven of the 4 kings, the Trayastrimsha Heaven, the Suyama Heaven, the Dashida Heaven, the Blissful Transformations Heaven, and the Heaven of Comfort gained through others' transformations. They came from the heaven of the multitudes of Brahma, the heaven of the ministers of Brahma, the heaven of the great Brahma Lord, the heaven of lesser light, the heaven of limitless light, the heaven of light sound, the heaven of lesser purity, the heaven of limitless purity, and the heaven of universal purity. They came from the birth of blessings heaven, the love of blessings heaven, the abundant fruit heaven, the no thought heaven, the no affliction heaven, the no heat heaven, the good views heaven, the good manifestation heaven, the ultimate form heaven, the Maheshvara heaven, and so forth to the heaven of the station of neither thought nor non-thought. All those groups of gods, dragons, ghosts, and spirits came and gathered together. Moreover, sea spirits, river spirits, stream spirits, tree spirits, mountain spirits, earth spirits, rock and marsh spirits, sprout and seedling spirits, day, night, and space spirits, heaven spirits, food and drink spirits, grass and wood spirits, and other such spirits from the Saha and other worlds came and gathered together. In addition, all the great ghost kings from the Saha and other worlds came and gathered together. They were the Ghost King Evil Eyes, the Ghost King Blood Drinker, the Ghost King Essence and Energy Eater, the Ghost King Fetus and Egg Eater, the Ghost King Spreader of Sickness, the Ghost King Collector of Poisons, the Ghost King Kind-Hearted, the Ghost King Blessings and Benefits, the Ghost King Great Regard and Respect, and others. At that time, Shakyamuni Buddha said to the Dharma Prince, Manjushri Bodhisattva Mahasattva, as you regard these Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, gods, dragons, ghosts, and spirits from this world and other worlds, from this land and other lands, who are now gathered in the Trayastrimsha heaven, do you know how many of them there are? Manjushri said to the Buddha, O Dona One, even if I were to measure and reckon with my spiritual powers for 1,000 eons, I would not be able to know how many of them there are. The Buddha told Manjushri, regarding them with my Buddha eye, I also cannot count them all. Those beings have been taken across, are being taken across, will be taken across, have been brought to accomplishment, are being brought to accomplishment, or will be brought to accomplishment by erstwhile Bodhisattva throughout many eons. Manjushri said to the Buddha, O Dona One, I have cultivated gurus for a long time and have certified to unobstructed wisdom. When I hear what the Buddha says, I immediately accept it with faith. But hearers of small tame gods, dragons, and the rest of the eightfold division, and beings in the future who hear the Dasgama's true words, will certainly harbor doubts. Even if they receive the teaching most respectfully, they will still be unable to avoid slandering it. My only wish is that the world Dona One will proclaim for everyone what erstwhile Bodhisattva Mahasattva practiced and what vows he made while on the level of planting causes that now enable him to accomplish such inconceivable deeds. The Buddha said to Manjushri, by way of analogy, suppose that each blade of grass and tree in a field or forest, each rice plant, hemp stalk, bamboo reed, and each dust bowl from mountain boulders in a 3,000 great thousand world system were a Ganges river. Then suppose that each grain of sand in each of those Ganges rivers were a world, and that each dust mote in each of those worlds were an eon. Then suppose each dust mote accumulated in each of those eons was itself an eon. The time elapsed since erstwhile Bodhisattva was certified to the position of the 10th ground is 1,000 times longer than that in the above analogy. Even longer was the time he dwelt on the levels of Zero and Pratyeka Buddha. Manjushri, the awesome spiritual vows of this Bodhisattva are inconceivable. If good men or women in the future hear this Bodhisattva's name, praise him, behold or bow to him, call his name, make offerings to him, or if they draw, carve, cast, sculpt, or paint images of him, such people will be reborn in the heaven of the 33 100 times and will never fall into the evil paths. Manjushri, ineffable eons ago, during the time of a Buddha named Divine Spring, complete in the 10,000 practices thus come one, erstwhile Bodhisattva Mahasattva was the son of a great elder. The elder son, upon observing the Buddha's hallmarks and fine features, and how the 1,000 blessings adorned him, asked the Buddha what practices and vows had endowed him with such hallmarks. Lion Spring, complete in the 10,000 practices thus come one, then said to the elder son, if you wish to have a body like this, you must throughout long eons liberate all living beings who are undergoing suffering. Manjushri, that comment caused the elder son to make a vow, from now until the end of future time, throughout uncountable eons, I will use expensive expedient means to help beings in the sixth path who are suffering for their offenses. Only when they have all been liberated will I myself become a Buddha. From the time he made the great vow in the presence of the Buddha until now, hundreds of millions of mayutas of ineffable eons have passed, yet he is still a Bodhisattva. Another time, inconceivable Asankhya eons ago, there was a Buddha named Enlightenment Flower Samadhi Self-Mastery King, thus come one. The Buddha's lifespan was 400 billion Samkhya aeons. During his Dharma image age, there lived a Brahmin woman who was endowed with many blessings from previous lives and who was respected by everyone. Whether she was walking, standing, sitting, or lying down, God surrounded and protected her. Her mother, however, embraced her deviant faith and often slighted the triple jewel. The worthy daughter made use of many expedients in trying to convince her mother to hold right views, but her mother never totally believed. Before long, the mother's life ended and her consciousness fell into the relentless hell. When her mother's life ended, the Brahmin woman, knowing that her mother had not believed in cause and effect while alive, feared that her karma would certainly pull her into the evil path. For that reason, she sold the family house and procured vast quantities of incense, flowers, and various other items, and performed a great offering in the Buddha's stupa and temple. In one of the temples, she saw an especially fine and majestic image of the Daskaman Enlightenment Flower Samadhi Self-Mastery King. As the Brahmin woman beheld the honored one's countenance, she became doubly respectful and thought to herself, a Buddha is called a great and enlightened one, endowed with all wisdom. If this Buddha were in the world, I could ask him where my mother went after she died. He would certainly know. The Brahmin woman then wept for a long time as she gazed longingly upon the Daskam one. Suddenly a voice in the air said, O weeping worthy woman, do not be so sorrowful. I shall now show you where your mother has gone. The Brahmin woman placed her palms together as she said into space, which divinity is comforting me in my grief? From the day I lost my mother, I have held her in memory day and night, but there is nowhere I can go to ask about the realm of her rebirth. The voice in the air spoke to the woman again. I am the one you behold and worship, the former Enlightenment Flower Samadhi Self-Mastery King, thus come one. Because I have seen you, your regard for your mother is double that of ordinary beings. I have come to show you where she is. The Brahmin woman suddenly raised herself and lunged toward the voice she was hearing. She then fell, injuring all her limbs. Those around her supported and attended to her, and after a long time she was revived. Then she addressed the air, saying, I hope the Buddha will be compassionate and quickly tell me into what realm my mother has been reborn. I am now near death myself. Enlightenment Flower Samadhi Self-Mastery King, thus come on, told the worthy woman, after you make your offerings, return home quickly. Sit upright and concentrate on my name. You will soon know where your mother has been reborn. The Brahmin woman bowed to the Buddha and returned home. The memory of her mother sustained her as she sat upright, recollecting Enlightenment Flower Samadhi Self-Mastery King, thus come one.
After doing so for a day and night, she suddenly saw herself beside the sea,
whose water ceased and bubbled. Many dreadful beasts with iron bodies were pursuing each one swiftly back and forth above the sea. She saw billions of men and women bobbing up and down in the sea, being fought over, seized, and eaten by those beasts. She saw yakshas with different forms. Some had many hands, some many eyes, some many legs, and some many heads, with their protruding fangs sharp as swords. They drove the offenders on towards those beasts. Furthermore, the beasts and yakshas seized the offenders and twisted their heads and feet together into shapes so horrible that no one would dare even look at them for long. During that time, the Brahmin woman was naturally without fear, due to the power of recollecting the Buddha. A ghost king named Poisonous came, bowed his head in greeting, and said to the worthy woman, Welcome, O Bodhisattva. What conditions bring you here? The Brahmin woman asked the ghost king, What is this place? Poisonous replied, We are on the western side of the great Iron Ring mountain, and this is the first of the seas that encircle it. The worthy woman asked, I have heard that the hells are within the Iron Ring. Is that actually so? Poisonous answered, Yes, the hells are here. The worthy woman asked, How have I now come to the hells? Poisonous answered, If it wasn't awesome spiritual strength that brought you here, then it was the power of karma. Those are the only two ways that anyone can come here. The worthy woman asked, Why is this water seething and bubbling, and why are there so many offenders and dreadful beasts? Poisonous replied, These are beings of Jambudvipa who did evil deeds. They have just died and passed through 49 days without any surviving relatives doing any meritorious deeds on their behalf to rescue them from their distress. Moreover, during their lives, they themselves didn't plan any good causes. Hence, their own karma calls for these hells. They must, of course, cross this sea first. 10,000 yojanas east of the sea is another sea in which they will undergo twice as much suffering.
East of the sea
is yet another sea,
where the sufferings are doubled yet again. What the combined evil causes of the three karmas evil are all called the sea of karma. This is that place.
The worthy woman asked the ghost-king poisonous, where are the hells? Poisonous answered, within the three seas are hundreds of thousands of great hells, each one different. 18 of those are known as the great hells. 500 subsequent ones inflict limitless cruel sufferings. Following those are hundreds of thousands that inflict limitless further sufferings. The worthy woman again questioned the great ghost king. My mother died recently and I do not know where her spirit has gone. The ghost king asked the worthy woman, when the Bodhisattva's mother was alive, what deeds did she do? The worthy woman replied, my mother held wrong views and ridiculed and slandered the triple jewel. Even if she occasionally believed, she would soon become disrespectful again. She died recently and I still do not know where she was reborn. Poisonous asked, what was the Bodhisattva's mother's name and clan? The worthy woman replied, my parents were both Brahmins. My father's name was Shila Sudarshana. My mother's name was Yadili. Poisonous placed his palms together and implored the worthy woman, please, worthy one, quickly return home. There is no need for you to grieve further. The offender Yadili was born in the heavens 3 days ago. It is said that she received the benefit of offerings made and blessings cultivated by her filial child, who for her mother's sake practiced giving at the stupas and temples of enlightenment flower samadhi self-mastery king thus come one. Not only was the Bodhisattva's mother released from the hells, but all the other offenders who were in the relentless hell also received bliss and were reborn together with her. Having finished speaking, the ghost king put his palms together and withdrew. The Brahmin woman returned swiftly as if from a dream, understood what had happened, and then made a profound and far-reaching vow before the stupas and images of enlightenment flower, samadhi, self-mastery king thus come one, saying, I vow that until the end of future eons, I will respond to beings suffering for their offenses by using many expedient devices to bring about their liberation. The Buddha told Manjushri, the ghost king poisonous is the present Bodhisattva foremost wealth. The Brahmin woman is now erstwhile Bodhisattva. Chapter 2. The division bodies gather. At that time, the division bodies of erstwhile Bodhisattva began gathering in the palace of the Trayastrimsha heaven from all the hells in the billions of inexpressible, inconceivable, immeasurable, ineffable, limitless Sankhya souls. Due to the spiritual powers of the thus come one, each came from his own direction and was joined by thousands of billions of leaders of those who had attained liberation from the path of karma. All brought incense and flowers as offerings to the Buddha. Those groups that came were irreversible from Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi because they had been taught by erstwhile Bodhisattva. For long eons they had wandered in birth and death, undergoing suffering within the 6 paths without even temporary respite. Now they had reached various levels of stature due to the great compassion and deep vows of erstwhile Bodhisattva. They felt joyful as they arrived at the Trayastrimsha heaven and gazed at the thus come one, their eyes not leaving him for a moment. At that time the world donor once stretched forth his golden-colored arm and rubbed the crowns of all the division bodies of erstwhile Bodhisattva Mahasattva, gathered from billions of inexpressible, inconceivable, immeasurable, ineffable, limitless Sankhya souls, and said, I teach obstinate beings such as these within the evil worlds of the 5 timidities, causing their minds to be regulated and subdued, so they renounce the improper and return to the proper. But 1 or 2 of them still cling to their bad habits. For them are again divided into billions of bodies and use numerous expedient means. Those with keen roots will listen and immediately believe. Those with good rewards will respond to exhortation and strive to succeed. Those who are dim and dull will return only after being taught for a long time. Those whose karma is heavy fail to show any respect. My division bodies take a cross and liberate all those different kinds of beings. I may appear as a man, a woman, a god or a dragon, a spirit or ghost. I may appear as a mountain, a forest, a stream, a plain, a river, a lake, a fountain, or a well in order to benefit people, so they would all be liberated. I may appear as God Shakra, Lord Brahma, a wheel-turning king, a lay person, a king, a prime minister, an official, a bhikshu, a bhikshuni, an upasaka, an upasika, a hearer, an arhat, a practical Buddha or a bodhisattva, in order to teach and rescue beings. It is not that I only appear to them as a Buddha. Reflect on how I have taught for many eons and endured much hardship to take the cross and free those stubborn and difficult beings who are suffering from their offenses. Those not yet subdued undergo retributions according to their karma. If they fall into the evil destinies and are undergoing tremendous suffering, then you should remember the gravity of this entrustment. I am now making to you here in the palace of the Trayastrimsha heaven. Find ways to liberate all beings in the Saha world from now until the time when Maitreya comes into the world. Help them escape suffering forever, encounter Buddhas and receive predictions. At that time, all the division bodies of Astral Bodhisattva that came from all those worlds merged into a single form. Then he wept and said to the Buddha, "Throughout long eons I have been receiving the Buddha's guidance, and from that have developed inconceivable spiritual power and great wisdom. My division bodies fill the worlds as many as grains of sand in millions of billions of Ganges rivers. In each of those worlds I transform myself into millions of billions of bodies. Each body rescues millions of billions of people, helping them to return respectfully to the Triple Jewel. Escape birth and death forever and reach the bliss of nirvana, even if their good deeds within the Buddha Dhamma amount to as little as a strand of hair, a drop of water, a grain of sand, or a mote of dust, or the tip of a hair. I will gradually take them across, liberate them, and help them gain great benefit. I only hope that the world of no one will not be worried about beings of the future who have bad karma." In that way, he addressed the Buddha 3 times. I only hope that the world of no one will not be worried about beings of the future who have bad karma. At that time, the Buddha praised Astral Bodhisattva and said, "Excellent, excellent, I will help you in this work you so willingly undertake. When the vast vows that you keep making throughout so many eons are fulfilled and all those beings have been saved, then you will be certified as having attained the Bodhi." Chapter 3, Contemplating the Karmic Conditions of Beings. At that time, the Buddha's mother, Lady Maya, placed her palms together respectfully and asked Astral Bodhisattva, "Great sage, could you tell us about the different kinds of karma that beings of Jambudvipa create and the resulting retributions that they undergo?" Astral replied, "There are millions of worlds and lands that may or may not have hells, may or may not have women, may or may not have the Buddha Dharma, and so forth, to having or not having hearers and practical Buddhas. Since the worlds differ, the retributions in the hells also differ." Lady Maya spoke again to the Bodhisattva, "Could you please tell us about the offenses done by those in Jambudvipa that result in retributions in the evil destinies?" Astral replied, "Worthy mother, please listen as I speak briefly about that." The Buddha's mother answered, "Great sage, please do tell us about it." Then Astral Bodhisattva said to the worthy mother, "Retributions that result from offenses committed in Jambudvipa are described like this. Beings who are not filial to their parents, even to the point of harming or killing them, will fall into the relentless hell, where for thousands of billions of eons they will seek escape in vain. Beings who shed the Buddha's blood, slander the Triple Jewel, and do not venerate sutras will fall into the relentless hell, where for thousands of billions of eons they will seek escape in vain. Beings who usurp or damage the property of the eternally dwelling, who defile bhikshus or bhikshunis, who commit sexual acts within the Sankarama, or who kill or harm beings will fall into the relentless hell, where for thousands of billions of eons they will seek escape in vain.
Beings who seem to be Swarmanas, but in their minds are not Swarmanas, who destroy the things of the eternally dwelling, who deceive lay people, who go against the precepts, and who do many other evil deeds, will fall into the relentless hell where, for thousands of billions of eons, they will seek escape in vain.
Beings who steal the wealth and property of the eternally dwelling, including its grains, food and drink, and clothing, or who take anything at all that was not given to them, will fall into the relentless hell, where for thousands of billions of eons they will seek escape in vain. Restore continued. Worthy Mother, beings who commit such offenses will fall into the fivefold relentless hell, where they will constantly seek temporary relief from their suffering, but will never receive even a moment's relief. Lady Maya further asked Astro Bodhisattva, why is that hell called relentless? Astro replied, Worthy Mother, the hells are all within the great Iron Mountain. The 18 great hells and the 500 subsequent ones each have their own name. There are hundreds of thousands more that also have their own names. The relentless hell is found within a city of hells that encompasses more than 80,000 square miles. That city is made entirely of iron and is 10,000 miles in height, with an unbroken mass of fire above it. Within the city are many interconnected hells, each with a different name. There is just one hell called Relentless. Its circumference is 18,000 miles. The wall of that hell is 1,000 miles high, totally made of iron and covered with a fire burning downward, that is joined by a fire burning upward. Iron snakes and dogs spewing fire race back and forth atop that wall. In that hell is a bed that extends for 10,000 miles. One person undergoing punishment perceives his or her own body covering the entire bed. When hundreds of thousands of people undergo punishment simultaneously, each still perceives his or her own body covering the bed. That is how retributions are undergone by those with the same karma. What is more, these offenders undergo extreme suffering. Hundreds of thousands of yakshas and other evil ghosts display fangs like swords and eyes like lightning as they pull and drag the offenders with their brass-clawed hands. Other yakshas wield huge iron halberds that they use to pierce the offenders' mouths and noses or stab their bellies and backs. They toss the offenders into the air and then catch them by skewering them with the halberds, or they let them drop onto the bed. Iron eagles peck at the offenders' eyes, and iron serpents wrap around their necks. Long nails are driven into all their joints. Their tongues are pulled out, stretched, and then plowed through. Their internal organs are gouged out, sliced and minced. Molten metal is poured into their mouths, and their bodies are bound with hot iron. Responses to their karma go on like that throughout thousands of deaths and rebirths. They pass through hundreds of millions of eons seeking escape in vain. When this world is destroyed, they find themselves in another world. When that world is destroyed, they pass on to another one. When that world too is destroyed, they move on to another. When this world comes into being again, they return here. The situation involving relentless retribution for offenses is like that. Moreover, five karmic responses account for the name relentless. What are the five? First, it is said to be relentless because punishment is undergone day and night throughout many eons without ceasing for a moment. Second, it is said to be relentless because one person feels it in the same way that many people feel it. Third, it is said to be relentless because repeated punishments continue without cease throughout years that stretched into millions of eons. Those punishments are inflicted by instruments of torture such as forks and clubs, or by eagles, serpents, wolves, and dogs, or by pounding, grinding, sawing, drilling, chiseling, cutting, and chopping, or by boiling liquids, iron nets, iron ropes, iron donkeys, and iron horses, or by rawhide strips bound around one's head and molten iron poured over one's body, or by meals of iron pellets and drinks of molten iron. Fourth, it is said to be relentless because all beings undergo karmic responses based on the offenses that they have committed. whether they be men, women, savages, old, young, honorable or lowly, whether they be dragons, spirits, gods, or ghosts. Fifth, it is said to be relentless, because offenders continually undergo 10,000 deaths and as many rebirths each day and night from the moment they first enter this hell and on through hundreds of thousands of eons. During that time, if they seek even a moment's relief, it never comes. Only when their karma is exhausted can they leave the hell and be born elsewhere. Erstwhile Bodhisattva said to the worthy mother, "That is the brief description of the relentless hell. If I were to speak extensively about the names of all the implements of punishment in the hells and all the sufferings there, I could not finish speaking in an entire eon." After hearing that, Lady Maya placed her palms together sorrowfully, made obeisance, and withdrew. Chapter 4, Karmic Retributions of Beings of Jambudvipa. At that time, erstwhile Bodhisattva Mahasattva said to the Buddha, "O Dharma One, because I received the awesome spiritual strength of the Buddha, thus come one, I am able to divide my body and rescue beings who are undergoing karmic retributions everywhere in billions of worlds. If it were not for the great compassionate strength of the thus come one, I would be unable to manifest such transformations. Now the Lord Dharma One has entrusted me with rescuing and liberating beings in the 6 paths until a Jiva becomes a Buddha. I accept the entrustment. O Dharma One, please have no further concern." Then the Buddha told us to a Bodhisattva, "Beings who have not yet attained liberation have unstable natures and perceptions. Their bad habits reap bad karma. Their good habits bring rewards. Reacting to situations by doing good or evil deeds cause them to turn in the 5 paths without a moment's rest. Confused and beset by troubles, they pass through eons as numerous as dust motes. Like fish swimming through waters laced with nets, they may slip through and keep their freedom temporarily, but sooner or later they will be caught. I am concerned about such beings, but since you keep making extensive vows repeatedly throughout successive eons to take such offenders across, what further worries need I have?" After that was said, a Bodhisattva Mahasattva in the assembly named Samadhi Self-Mastery King said to the Buddha, "O Dharma One, what vows has erstwhile Bodhisattva made during so many successive eons that now cause him to receive the Lord Dharma One's repeated praise? We hope the Lord Dharma One will briefly tell us about this." Then the Lord Dharma One replied to Samadhi Self-Mastery King, listen attentively, and reflect well as I now explain the details for you. One time, limitless Samkhya some Nayutas of ineffable eons ago, a Buddha named all knowledge accomplished thus come one worthy of offerings, one of proper and pervasive knowledge, one perfect in clarity and conduct, well-gone one, unsurpassed knight who understands the world, taming and subduing hero, teacher of gods and humans, Buddha, Lord Dharma One, appeared in the world. The Buddha's lifespan was 60,000 eons. Before he became a monk, he was the king of a small country and was friendly with the king of a neighboring country. Both kings practiced the 10 wholesome deeds and benefited beings. Because the citizens of those 2 neighboring countries did many bad things, the 2 kings made a plan using far-reaching expedients. One king vowed to quickly become a Buddha and then rescue all the others. The other king vowed, "I do not want to become a Buddha until I first rescue all those who are suffering for their offenses, enabling them to find peace and finally to reach Bodhi." The Buddha told the Bodhisattva Samadhi Self-Mastery King, "The king who vowed to quickly become a Buddha is all knowledge accomplished thus come one. The king who vowed to keep saving beings who are suffering for their offenses rather than become a Buddha is erstwhile Bodhisattva." Another time, limitless Samkhya eons ago, a Buddha named Pure Lotus Eyes thus come appeared in the world. His lifespan was 40 eons. In his Dharma image age, an arhat who taught beings as he encountered them, rescuing them by letting them create blessings, once met a woman named Bright Eyes, who offered a meal to him. "What is your wish?" asked the arhat. Bright Eyes replied, "On the day of my mother's death, I performed meritorious deeds to rescue her. but I do not know into what path my mother has been reborn. Sympathizing with her, the arhat entered samadhi to contemplate, and saw that Bright Eyes' mother had fallen into a bad destiny, where she was undergoing extreme suffering. The arhat asked, Bright Eyes, what did your mother do while alive that make her have to now undergo such terrible suffering in a bad destiny? Bright Eyes replied, my mother enjoyed eating fish, turtles, and other sea creatures. She indulged in eating fried or broiled fish and turtle eggs, taking lives that numbered in the millions. O Venerable One, please be compassionate and tell me how she can be saved. The arhat took pity on Bright Eyes, used his skillful means, and urged Bright Eyes thus,
with sincere resolve,
be mindful of Lotus Eyes Daskaman, and also make carved and painted images of him. When you do, both the living and the dead will be rewarded. On hearing this, Bright Eyes renounced everything she loved and swiftly commissioned painted images of the Buddha. Then she made offerings before them. She wept sorrowfully as she respectfully beheld and bowed to the Buddha. Suddenly, during the second half of the night, in a dream, she saw the Buddha's body dazzling gold in color and as large as Mount Sumeru, emitting great light. The Buddha said to Bright Eyes, your mother will be born in your household before long, and as soon as that infant can feel hunger and cold, he will speak. Shortly thereafter, a maid servant in the house bore a son, who spoke before he was 3 days old. Lowering his head and weeping, he said to Bright Eyes, the karmic conditions we create during our lives and deaths result in retributions that we ourselves must undergo. I was your mother and have been in darkness for a long time. Since you and I parted, I have repeatedly fallen into the great hells. Upon receiving the power of your blessings, I have been reborn as a person of low station with a short lifespan. 13 years from now, I will fall into the evil paths again. Do you have some way to free me so that I can avoid them? When Bright Eyes heard those words, she knew without a doubt that they were her mother's. Choked with sobs, she said to the servant's child, since you were my mother, you should know your own past offenses. What karma did you create that caused you to fall into the evil path? The maidservant's child answered, I am undergoing retribution for 2 kinds of karma, killing and slandering. Had I not received the blessings you earned to rescue me from difficulty, I will not yet be released from that karma. Bright Eyes asked, what happens in the hells when beings undergo retribution for their offenses? The maidservant's son answered, I can bear to speak of the ways in which beings suffer for their offenses. Even in 100,000 years, I would find it hard to finish describing it. When Bright Eyes heard that, she wept bitterly and spoke into the air, saying, I vow that my mother will be released from the hells forever. At the end of these 13 years, she will be done with her heavy offenses and will not go back to the evil path. O Buddhas of the 10 directions, with your compassion and sympathy, please listen to the vast and mighty vow that I am making for the sake of my mother. If my mother will never again enter the 3 evil paths, will never again be born into low stations, and will never again be a woman, then here before the image of pure lotus eyes thus come one, I vow that from this day on, throughout millions of billions of eons, I will respond to all beings who are undergoing suffering for the offenses in the hells or the 3 evil paths of any world. I vow to rescue them from the bad destinies of the hells, hungry ghosts, animals, and the like. Only after beings with such retributions have all become Buddhas will I myself achieve proper enlightenment. After making the vow, she clearly heard pure lotus eyes thus come and say to her, Bright Eyes, your own great compassion and sympathy will reach your mother through this mighty vow that you are making. My contemplation shows me that after 13 years, your mother will be done with this retribution and will be born a Brahmin with a lifespan of 100 years. After the retribution, she will be born in the land of no concern with a lifespan of uncountable eons. Later, she will realize the fruition of Buddhahood and save people and gods as numerous as sand grains in the Ganges. Shakyamuni Buddha told Samadhi's self-mastery king, the Arhat who bestowed blessings and helped Bright Eyes then is now inexhaustible intention Bodhisattva. The mother of Bright Eyes is now liberation Bodhisattva.
The
as a service now as to a Bodhisattva. He has been extending his compassion and sympathy like that from distant eons onward by making vows as many as Ganges sends to rescue vast numbers of beings. Men and women in the future may fail to do good deeds and only do evil, may not believe in cause and effect, may indulge in sexual misconduct and false speech, may use divisive and harsh speech, and may slander the great vehicle. Beings with karma like that should certainly fall into bad destinies, but if they encounter good and wise advisors who exhort them and lead them to quickly take refuge with Erstwhile Bodhisattva, then those beings will just as quickly be released from their retributions in the three evil paths. If those beings are determined and respectful, if they behold out to and praise the Bodhisattva, and if they make offerings of flowers, incense, clothing, jewels, food, and drink to him, they will enjoy supremely wonderful bliss in the heavens for millions of billions of eons. When their blessings in the heavens and they are born as people throughout hundreds of thousands of eons, they will often be national leaders able to remember all aspects of causes and effects from previous lives. O Samadhi Self-Mastery King, Erstwhile Bodhisattva has such inconceivable great awesome spiritual power that he uses extensively for the benefit of beings. All of you Bodhisattvas should remember this sutra and proclaim and spread it far and wide. Samadhi Self-Mastery King said to the Buddha, World Honor One, please do not be concerned. We billions of Bodhisattvas and Mahasattvas, based on the Buddha's awesome spiritual strength, will certainly proclaim this sutra widely throughout Jambudvipa for the benefit of beings. Having spoken thus to the World Honor One, Samadhi Self-Mastery King Bodhisattva put his palms together respectfully, bowed and withdrew.
At that time, the four heavenly kings rose from their seats, placed their palms together respectfully, and said to the Buddha, Well Honored One, Erstwhile Bodhisattva has been making such great vows from distant eons past until now. Why is it that even now he has not yet finished taking beings of growth? Why does he continue to renew his vows and mighty vows? Please, Well Honored One, explain that for us.
The Buddha told the four heavenly kings, Excellent, excellent, now to bring benefit to you and to extend the benefit to people and gods of the present and future, I will speak about how Erstwhile Bodhisattva, out of compassion and pity, uses expedient devices within the paths of birth and death in Jambudvipa in the Saha world to rescue, take across, and liberate beings who are undergoing suffering for their offenses. The four heavenly kings replied, Please, World Honor One, we would like to hear about his work. The Buddha told the four heavenly kings, From distant eons past up to the present, Erstwhile Bodhisattva has been rescuing and liberating beings. Since his vows are still not fulfilled, he continues with compassion and sympathy to help beings suffering for the offenses in this world. Moreover, he sees that the ceaseless tangle of the causes extending on through infinite future eons. Because of that, he renews his vows. Thus, in this Saha world, on the continent of Jambudvipa, this Bodhisattva teaches and transforms beings by means of millions of billions of expedient devices. O four heavenly kings, to killers, Erstwhile Bodhisattva speaks of the retribution of a short lifespan. To robbers, he speaks of the retribution of the acute suffering of poverty. To those who indulge in improper sex, he speaks of the retribution of rebirth as sparrows or as mandarin drakes and ducks. To those who use harsh speech, he speaks of the retribution of quarreling families. To those who slander, he speaks of the retribution of being without a tongue and having a cankerous mouth. To the hateful, he speaks of the retribution of being ugly and disabled. To the stingy, he speaks of the retribution of not getting what they seek. To gluttons, he speaks of the retribution of hunger, thirst, and sicknesses of the throat. To those who hunt without restraint, he speaks of the retribution of dying a terrible, violent death. To those who are unfilial to their parents, he speaks of the retribution of being killed in natural disasters. To arsonists who burn mountains and forests, he speaks of the retribution of going insane and losing their own lives. To cruel parents or step-parents, he speaks of the retribution of being flogged in future lives. To those who net and trap animals, he speaks of the retribution of being separated from one's own children or parents. To those who stand on the triple jewel, he speaks of the retribution of being blind, deaf, or mute. To those who slight the Dharma and regard the teachings with contempt, he speaks of the retribution of remaining in the bad past forever. To those who destroy or misuse possessions of the eternally dwelling,
speaks of the retribution of
revolving in the house for hundreds of millions of eons. To those who defile the pure conduct of others and bear false witness against members of the Sangha, he speaks of the retribution of remaining in the animal realm forever. To those who scald, burn, dismember, maim, or otherwise harm beings, he speaks of the retribution of undergoing the very same suffering. To those who violate precepts and the regulations of pure eating, he speaks of the retribution of being born as birds or beasts, thus must suffer hunger. To those who make reckless and destructive use of things, he speaks of the retribution of being unable to ever obtain what they seek. To the arrogant and haughty, he speaks of the retribution of being servile and of low station. To those who use backbiting to cause discord among others, he speaks of the retribution of being without a tongue or having speech impediments. To those with misguided views, he speaks of the retribution of being reborn in backward regions. The bad habits involving body, mouth, and mind karma that beings of Jambudvipa perpetuate result in hundreds of thousands of retributions like those. I have only listed a few examples here, since the varying karma created by beings of Jambudvipa brings about different responses. Astral Bodhisattva uses hundreds of thousands of expedient means to teach and transform beings. To those beings must first undergo retributions such as those, and then fall into the hells, where they pass through eons without being able to escape. You should therefore protect people and protect nations. Do not allow the various kinds of karma to confuse beings. On hearing that, the four heavenly kings wept in sorrow, placed their palms together and withdrew. End of part 1 of Sutra of the Passcode of Astral Bodhisattva. Lipa lipa di choha choha di tola niti nihala di pili niti moha chit janmin chandi sapaha. Lipa lipa di choha choha tola niti nihala di pili niti moha chit janmin chandi sapaha. Lipa lipa di choha choha tola niti nihala di pili niti moha chit Janmin Chandi Sabaha Namo Amidabhaya Data Chetoye Dotiyet Amilita Pabi Amilita Siddham Pabi Amilita Pijalanti Amilita Pijalanta Chemini Chechena Cheta Jari Sabaha Amidabhaya Data Chetoye Dotiyeta Amilita Pabi Amilita Siddham Pabi Amilita Pijalanti Amilita Pijalanta Chemini Chechena Cheta Jari Sabaha Namo Amidabhaya Data Chetoye Dotiyeta Amilita Pabi Amilita Siddham Pabi Amilita Pijalanti Amilita Pijalanti Chemini Chechena Cheta Jari Sabaha Namo Halatana Talaye Chela Chela Chichu Chichu Mola Mo Hula Ho Ha Sutana Ho Pamana Sapa Namo Halatana Talaye Chela Chela Chichu Chichu Mola Mo Hula Ho Ha Sutana Ho Pamana Sapa Namo Halatana Talaye Chela Chela Chichu Chichu Mola Mola Hula Ho Ha Sutana Ho Pamana Sapa. Praise. The thus come on out of kindness and pity, turns the great Dharma wheel. The Brahman woman Kali saves her kin. Enlightenment flower takes beings across the stream of confusion, and Lady Maya asks Astral Bodhisattva about causes. Homage to Astral Bodhisattva Mahasattva. Homage to Astral Bodhisattva Mahasattva. Homage to Astral Bodhisattva Mahasattva. First two Bodhisattva praise. First Bodhisattva, wonderful beyond compare, gloried in his transformation body, he appears. Wondrous Dhamma sounds throughout the three paths and 6 realms. 4 birds and 10 kinds of beings gain his kindly grace. His birth shining brightly lights the way to heaven's halls. 6-winged golden staff shakes open wide the gates of hell. Leads on those with causes, garner life and life again. To bow at the 9 flower terrace of the honor one. Namo Astu, great vows and compassion, Bodhisattva of the dark and dismal walls. On 9 flower mountain, most honored one, with 10 feet of power, you rescue all the suffering ones. We will recite the Bodhisattva's name. Namo Astu Bodhisattva. Namo Astu Bodhisattva. Namo Astu Bodhisattva. Namo Astu Bodhisattva. Bodhisattva Bodhisattva You will have 5 minutes silent recitation. Dedication of merit. May the merit from this practice adorn all the Buddha's lands, repay the kindness from above, and rescue those in paths below. May all who see or hear of this resolve upon awakening, and when this body meets its end, be born together in the land of bliss. 3 bows. In respect to the Venerable Master.